Okay, so welcome to another video. Welcome to another session of In Pursuit of Perfection, and it has been a minute. Yes, it has been a while since we had our last recording. I had gotten caught up in some things. We have exciting announcements coming ahead of us, but today we're just going to be jumping back in, and in a couple weeks' time, we're going to also be having our prayer video. We've not had one in a while, and it will be our prayer video for the month of June, since it is bi-monthly. So we're going to spend some time praying and thanking God for leading us through the first half of the year. So we're just going to jump in today, and today we're going to be discussing about how we deal with uncertain or changing times. Life has a way of always throwing some certain new things at us. Life never seems to be moving at an easy kill, and a lot of the times you find out that young people are not prepared for the fact that life is always changing. And when we were probably being brought up as children, they made us know that yet life had no turbulence, but the turbulence that they made us feel like it had was like the gentle rustling of a stream. But actually what we have is like it's a very violent, violent stormy waters, the ocean that is roaring and is about to consume a ship. And because we were not really prepared for that level of turbulence. If you watch some videos of people whitewater rafting, you see it like it feels like the waters want to take those people out, and that's how sometimes life feels like it wants to take us out. And a lot of the time it does manage to take some people out, and for the reason why that ends up being successful for some people, like life just puts them in a state where they cannot seem to handle it, is because they were not sturdy. They were not able to hold on to some certain things that would allow them to be able to advance themselves in those areas that they find themselves in, that season that they find themselves. you know and I just want us to use the analogy of, since we are talking about waters, let's just use the analogy of a ship. You find out that any ship that is built to carry heavy cargo or anything, even from the olden times, you find out that everything that is relating to a ship is broad and is sturdy. It is built to withstand storms, and this is something that we as young people have to learn, that we have to build ourselves to withstand storms, because life has so many uncertainties, and there are some few things that we can rely on. There are some few things that we can rely on to ensure that we are able to stand the test of time. And one of those things that we must do to ensure that when the storms of life hit us, that we'll be able to stand it, that we must be robust. Robustness means we should be broad, but we should be strong. We shouldn't just be broad, but we should be what? Strong. Being robust allows you to be able to take some certain kinds of impact, so that when some certain things come your way, when you're hit by some certain kind of news, someone tells you something that you do not expect, when your boss tells you something that you do not expect, when your customer tells you something you do not expect, it doesn't throw you out for a loop, because you have built a certain level of robustness to be able to deal with those incoming challenges. So just like a ship doesn't immediately capsize if it is built for it, the moment one big wave hits it, you find out that it has been designed to be able to ride some of the crests of those waves, because of how robust it has been built and how it has been set up to deal with those kinds of things. So we must be broad, you must be able to spread ourselves wide, so that we will have a certain level of balance, even when the waves under us are so uncertain. Like I said earlier, life is not a gentle stream. It is a mighty roaring ocean. It's a sea on it's like a stormy sea, and you have to be robust to be able to deal with it. And the next thing that I feel is very important is that we must be able to catch the wind with a robust mindset. When I say catch the wind, we find out that a lot of the time uncertainty in life is pushed by a change in the narrative of that season. When we actually watch what causes waters to be so stormy and stuff like that. You find out that temperature differences, la da da. But a major force behind that is the fact that the wind becomes so boisterous. Now, a boisterous wind, especially in the times when we used to use sails to navigate the waters, a boisterous wind sometimes can be a deterrent for where you want to go. And it was a huge deterrent in the initial time where sails were fixed, right? When sails were fixed, you find out that the helmsman was at the mercy of the wind. But the moment man figured out how to make it that the sails could move, then it did not matter so much the direction of the wind, it mattered the skill of the sailor. And that is what tends to happen with a lot of people, is that when they stepped into life with fixed sails. Maybe they were robust, maybe they were strong, but they were fixed. And that fixed sail allowed it that when the winds of life came, it could blow them in any direction. So they could withstand it, but you could find out that they ended up in the wrong place and not the desired location that they were meant to go. But someone with an ability to adapt, when I talk about us having robustness with a sail, I'm talking about us being strong but yet adaptable to changing situations, right? So when you have a sail that is able to pivot, you have a sail that is able to turn, you find out that you're able to still take advantage of the boisterous wind blowing you in a certain direction, but rather, and is still able to navigate your way, even if your rudder is in the water and it could have led you to another place without, with the fixed sail. Now that you have a sail that can move around, the propulsion of the wind does not take you to a place that you do not want to go to. You can still use your rudder to send yourself to the right place, even if the wind is contrary. Even if the wind is trying to take you to a different place, you'll be able to figure out a way to get yourself to the location that you want to get to. So this is another very important point, that we must be robust, yes, but we must robust with a flexibility, with an adaptability, so that the newness or the new thing that we are faced with does not consume us, right? And I just alluded a little bit to the last thing, and the last thing is that we must have a very strong rudder. We must have a very strong rudder. A rudder is necessary to give us direction in the unseen. There are sometimes we get into life and we are not able to grasp exactly where it is that we are supposed to be going. A rudder is what we use to dive into the unseen, because you do not see the rudder of a ship. It is in the water. It seems to be stuck in the storm. It seems to be in the midst of all the attacks and everything, but yet it is essential for us to be able to guide ourselves to the right place, right? So a strong rudder is very, very important in dealing with these things. You must know how and where to guide yourself. And a rudder is usually gotten for a man by the things that we hear, the things that we believe, the things that we have allowed to be able to, influence our lives. So as a Christian, the rudder of your life should be the Word of God. You should be very grounded in the Word of God, so that when the storms of life come, there's something that really puts you in the water, is hidden in the waters, but yet it seems to guide you, even if everything seems to just be moving, up and down, left and right. The surface of the water can be so uncertain, but that rudder that is set deep in the waters, still attached to you, yes, but set deep in the waters, when the helmsman turns that rudder, he is able to guide himself along the right path to get himself to where exactly he wants to be. And I'll just give you a bonus one. You need an anchor. You need something that is going to sit in the water when you do not want to move. Anchors are not there to hold you steady when you want to move. But when you find yourself in a place where it seems as though you need to stay and everything is trying to push you away, you need a strong anchor. And anchors for men are our convictions. You need to have a strong sense of faith. You need to have a strong trust in God about where you are, where you're meant to be, and you're not supposed to allow people to influence that decision that you're making to stay in that moment. You're not meant to allow people to just, the Bible talks about something where it talks about people being tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine. A man that is anchored will never be tossed to and fro. Even if information is coming, his convictions will allow him to withstand those storms that are coming, trying to make him pull up his anchor, that are trying to make him change the course of his rudder and lead him to a path that is not going to ultimately benefit him. So this is the design of all these things. We need to be robust, we need to be broad and strong, we need to have a good and strong sail, we need to be adaptable to changing conditions, we need to have a strong rudder and a helmsman that is willing to direct us in the right place, and then we need to have an anchor, a strong sense of conviction and faith to ensure that when changing conditions come, we'll be able to withstand whatever is before us. So these are just been a dive into how we can deal with the ever-changing world that is not just a gentle stream, but is choppy and stormy waters. This has been Tamno Prayers for bringing you the word. I hope you will join us in our next video where we'll be praying together, thanking God for the year so far, leading us into June, and I hope to see you there. So God bless you. Catch you in the next one. Bye bye.